Hey guys, we're going to start on the removal of the DPFI intake manifold today. Disconnect your battery, drain your radiator fluid. On the engine block, you can remove the 19mm drain plug if you want to drain all of the coolant out of your engine. I'm not going to do so, but it may be a little messy when we get back here and start disconnecting some of the coolant lines. But that's okay because I'm going to flush the system entirely once I'm finished the job and use OEM Honda coolant. I'm not using it right now as I have this orange Prestone in my car. So that's entirely up to you if you want to drain it from the block. I'm going to remove the clutch cable first just to make it a little easier to deal with removing everything on top of the intake manifold. All you need to do is spin the nut all the way up. Then you can slide it down and remove it from the clutch lever. Let's get the intake arm removed. I'm going to disconnect this throttle cable. Just loosen this 12mm nut. Pull it out of all the little clips. And then you can slide it out. When you have slack, you can spin it around and slide this out. This little piece slides in to the throttle plate. On this side of the engine, we have a handful of 10mm bolts which hold the wiring harness connected to the intake manifold. Let's start removing those because we want the wiring harness out of the way when we pull the manifold. Go ahead and remove, this is the return fuel line. Any unused fuel gets put back in here and gets put back into your tank. Now, start disconnecting all of these. You have the throttle position sensor, squeeze, pull, the idle air control valve, squeeze and pull. You have the primary and secondary injectors. This one is on the bottom. This one seems a little tougher. Squeeze and pull. You have the intake air temperature sensor, squeeze and lift, and also the last injector. That way those are out of the way. This wiring that connects to all of those sensors, we need to get this pulled up. Get this separated, use a little screwdriver. Well, I broke that little piece off there, so now it comes straight up. I guess not that big of a deal. You need to get this wire out of there. And get it off of this clip. There's a little push piece on the connector. Push in and then slide it up. And then right here on top, lift this piece. Lift with my thumb and pull. We need those separated because we need to feed this wiring through the bottom of the intake manifold. And now with that wiring free, feed it underneath the intake manifold. This was a little bracket that was right here holding on the wiring harness. It's no longer needed. Now we're gonna get the fuel line disconnected. It's a 17mm bolt. You can use your socket and ratchet. There will be some crush washers on here. I like to replace those whenever I disconnect any sort of fuel lines, just to avoid any leaks. But you can see it's there with that nut. Slide it off. There's gonna be gas dripping, but you'll be okay. Maybe just tuck that back somewhere for now. This line removed, and also this line removed. It's up to you where you want to remove it. You can remove it here and then take it off when you're done, and you can remove it here and then remove that one when you're done. Either way, it's better to remove them at the thermo housing itself, because that way we can apply the new one on when we get here. If you watched the first part of this video, I had that blue hose that looked kind of like a horseshoe. That's the one that's going to connect here. It's going to wrap around to the top onto the new intake manifold. And if you are replacing the hoses, you can just cut these if you want to get them off a lot quicker. There's no need to salvage them. I'm just going to use a fresh blade. So they're kind of a pain in the ass to get off, especially with this little boom right there. There's all the fluid I was talking about that you're going to lose out. And then we're going to cut the lower one also. Okay, next we need to get, this is for the charcoal canister. On the dual point, this line is super long. We don't need it that long. The new manifold, when it puts the throttle body over here, we're going to connect this line. Essentially, the throttle body is going to be right about here. You don't need to get it off if you don't want to. Another one I'm just going to cut, but I'm going to leave some extra length. Just leave yourself some extra room. That way you have enough to reach the throttle body. Same with the vacuum lines. Disconnect them how you may. I have never changed them, and I'm going to replace all of them. You can tell they still have the original little stampings on them, which show you the direction that each one goes. Make it easy for myself. I'm just going to cut those loose. This one I won't cut now, I'll just change that one when I get there. Go ahead and remove the line for the PCV valve. On the back of the manifold, there's another clip right here. You can squeeze it, slide that one off. And now behind the manifold, there's this large metal bracket which connects to the block and to the bottom of the manifold. You're going to need to get underneath the car to get that removed. And looking from the bottom of the car, there's that metal bracket. You have the two bolts on the bottom, and there's one centered at the top right there. These are 12mm bolts. Remove the brake booster vacuum line. There's just a clip here, slide it up, and then pull it away from the manifold. Now all we have remaining is getting the manifold off. You have 7 nuts which hold it to the head. There are the 2 on top on each side between the runners, and there's 1 in the bottom corner, 1 in the center, and 1 more on the bottom corner here. Get all 7 of those removed. last one I'm going to get up from underneath. Ugh. For me to get that lower nut removed, I went underneath the car. I used just a 1-inch extension and then a deep socket. And now, out comes the manifold.